Welcome to Two Psychics. This is Michael Edley, evidential medium and mystic, discussing all things spiritual.
Hello, I'm Mary Amy of Two Psychics, an intuitive wisdom coach, tapping into your mystical life and sharing messages I receive about you.
Welcome, everyone. This is Psychic Medium. Pleasure to be here with you tonight. And there is my fabulous co-host, Mary Amy. What is up, Mary Amy? How are you?
Hi, how are you tonight? Welcome. It is November. I have to look at the date even. November 20th, 2025, and it's episode 75. It's about Unexplained, Unsolved Mysteries, and we have a guest tonight, Jack Roth, author, filmmaker, and screenwriter. Welcome from New York, and you're on the Jersey Shore.
Yes, I am. And how is it in New York right now? Is it we have an unseasonably warm Jersey Shore day today. You know, today was actually, I didn't even need a jacket today. So I was pretty excited about that. You know, I had my dentist appointment earlier. So if I'm talking a little funny, don't mind me, but my teeth are nice and shiny now. So I feel good. You know, my mouth is a little achy, but achy in a good way. It's exciting. See, that's one thing. I don't know how you feel about going to the dentist, but I don't like people prodding and, you know, messing with my mouth. It's like a weird thing for me. And I guess because as a young age, I had a lot of fillings, and then I had to, you know, eventually get those fillings removed, you know, with the old silver and the mercury and get them redone. And, you know, that was something I was dealing with and trying to get that all cleaned up. And I'm so excited because I finally found a good dentist that that I really like and does a really good job and is really thorough. So, you know, I'm excited about that. And I have to share my excitement for that because that's one of those weird, you know, I wouldn't say like dental phobia, but just, you know, something that I wasn't very fond of.
Yeah, I've had my fair share of dental work. Nothing recently. I overcame a lot of that in 2020. So I'm good with that. It's just other medical issues that I have autoimmunes and a ton of other unexpected issues with my health. But for the most part, I have to say about the weather here, it's cold in the morning, 37 degrees, and then it pops up to 65. Today it was 65. So it's nice and sunny. Unfortunately, I'm so busy. I don't really have a lot of time to be outside in the beautiful weather, but I'm going to make time this weekend. I'm going to spend time working on my book and then outside. And I've been running every night for 25 minutes.
Oh, that's good. See, I was doing so well with my training routine and working out and getting to the gym. And I've been so busy with readings. You know, I've had large group readings, small group readings, private readings, some different events. I feel like I've been going. And, you know, after doing like literally, you know, 15 readings in an evening or so, the last thing I want to do the next morning is get up and go to the gym. So I have to get myself motivated again. But it's a process and trying to build that consistency and build on that consistency. But it's been good. I've had some really wild stuff, you know, over this last week happening in readings. You know, I'll share just a couple little tidbits of things. So I had one client. This was on a private reading, private in-person reading I was doing at my office, and we were closing out the reading, and a lot of great evidence came through. It was a mother who was grieving a child. There was other people around her that came through in spirit, but primarily she had a lot of validation and a lot of evidence of her child still being with her. And when she was leaving, we were talking a little bit as we closed out the session. I was waiting for my next sitter to come in. And she's like, this is really wild. We were talking about certain ways, you know, her child will be trying to connect to her and different things that I was being shown in the reading. And she's like, I just have to share a story with you. She's like, so the other day I was kind of like in an angry mood. She was like, and I wanted to hear like an angry song. So she's like, I wanted to hear a song that I could kind of yell to. And it was Enter Sandman from Metallica. I don't know if you're familiar with Metallica. It was one of their very popular songs through the 90s and stuff. And I think it might be the song that kind of broke them into like the mainstream when they were underground prior to that. And she's like, but the funny thing was, I asked Siri to play Enter Sandman, and Stairway to Heaven came on. And she's like, I kind of knew he was speaking to me through that. And we were, she was kind of packing up her stuff and, what she had with her and getting ready to leave. And all of a sudden we hear Enter Sandman playing. And I'm, I got to check my phone because I have my timer on my phone. That's usually the only thing I use it for. And I'm like, and in the office, in the studio, there is a Siri radio, and I had to double check and make sure that wasn't playing. It wasn't. And the crazy thing, she's like, I don't know. And she opens up her pocketbook and she has her phone buried in her pocketbook, and Enter Sandman's playing on it. I'm like, oh, that's pretty crazy because, it wasn't triggered. It wasn't voice triggered. And it was just, here it is on one of her, one of her music streams, Enter Sandman's playing. So it's a pretty wild thing. Now, I also had another situation where, we were talking about how spirit, this is in a separate reading, how spirit will connect. And it's interesting when they show me certain things, like the loved one in spirit. This was another child, and was showing me a specific day and time that he kept on flickering a certain light in the house, and brought me to the fixture, showed me the fixture. So it's funny when I start bringing that information through, and I'm like, okay, you just had an electrician in and nothing checked out, and this fixture, and I'm like, here it was. And we're bringing through a lot of validation that her loved one in spirit was showing me, and was flickering the lights. And I'm like, a lot of times when they come through, they will show you through energetic manipulation, lights, sometimes through music, sound, through electronics. Our loved ones in spirit can find ways to manipulate that. So that's why I tell people, don't discredit or think it's coincidence if you see that stuff happening when you've just lost someone. Pay attention to those things. And if like an electrician coming in can't rule it out, or you can't rule it out as a faulty light bulb or something else going on, potentially that's them trying to communicate with you. And sure enough, as I started speaking about that, like I just had a light just in my room start flickering. And the funny thing is, those of you that have been near to me, so I share my space with a portrait artist. So a good friend of mine is a portrait artist. I do my readings, small groups. I do, different stuff out of her facility. So another synchronicity was someone that came to me, had a child that was lost in spirit, that when I gave them the address, this is where her child's senior portrait was done, in this studio. And she was like, I knew that was validation. I was supposed to go to you once I saw where we were doing the reading out of, and I had no idea where you did your readings out of. And I don't really disclose it unless you're coming to me for a reading, or for, for a small group or a meditation, and then you'll get the address. It's not something that's out there. I don't have that on any of my material anywhere. And she's like, and when I saw where I was going to, she's like, literally the day before, or within, I would say within a couple of days, I don't know if it was exactly the day before or a few days before, pulled that senior picture out, was looking at it, and it was specifically done in the portrait studio that I do my readings out of. So that was kind of wild. And then friends of ours, Teresa and Mike, who did our portraits. Yeah. And, I'm very fortunate to be able to use their studio, good friends of ours. So I had to call Teresa and just tell her that story. I'm like, you'll find this funny, and the synchronicity of this. And she's like, well, you're going to find this a little funny, that the room that you keep doing your readings in, she's like, Mike keeps on having weird stuff go on with the lights. And she's like, and he'll check the light bulb, and he's like, and all of a sudden, like there's nothing wrong with the lights, and something will start flickering. And so I just had to laugh of the kind of this validation that, spirit can definitely manipulate electronics. So anyone out there that may be having these experiences, just know it may be a way that your loved one is trying to connect to you. It's funny how they use those synchronicities and use electronics. And we always see these weird electronic synchronicities and stuff happen while we're here on Two Psychics podcast, so it's funny when that stuff comes full circle.
It's interesting that's what you're bringing up, because I was just having a conversation, and I apologize, we start a little bit later tonight, and my daughter was here, and we lost our puppy dog June 27th, Elsa. And I meant to say to her right before we came on, by the way, the other night, we have this sensor that a light will come on in the hallway. So when you get up, you walk through, and it'll come on when you pass by it. And when Elsa was alive, she'd walk back and forth at night and it would pop on. Well, not last night, the night before, it was popping on. There was nobody there. And I thought, okay, was Elsa walking back and forth? Because that's what she would do at night. It was just very strange. I don't know what brought it on, because there was nothing else that would have popped the light on. There's nothing in the hallway. So it's interesting that you're saying that, which I actually was thinking it's Elsa. And now you're saying that that's what spirits can do. They can pop lights on.
See that? We're synced up. See?
We really are.
I would even know we were going to talk about that.
Surprise, surprise. And, I just would like to say there's messages that come through, and I'll give you an example. Like I just had said, I've been running every night, and but not alone. I'm running with someone, and we run, and it's pitch black. We run down the sidewalk of this main highway, right, not far from my home. And we run till it's hitting 95, and it's been fine. No problem. We're passing driveways, but we've not had a problem. It's dark. So I'm coming home from my job in the Matrix, and I'm pulling out of the parking lot, and these young boys literally scoot right in front of me, one on a bicycle, one on a scooter, like to tap my car. Like they saw what they were doing. I'm pulling out, and they literally dodged right in front of my car from over here. And it was two of them. And I said, oh my God. And then I said, is this a sign? Because I believe in signs. And then I said, oh, is it a sign I shouldn't run in the dark tonight? Because it was dark when this happened. And I said, nah. Then I pull out into the intersection, and then this van almost hits this woman in the dark. I said, okay, not running tonight. Because it's a sign for me not to run. Like there's certain signs something's about to happen. What I'm saying out there, to listeners and viewers is pay attention. There are signs before things go wrong. And I thought, all right, I worked out this morning. I can skip tonight. Maybe I'll go for a walk and not go for a run. Because when you're running, I don't run with headphones. You're running, you're really distracted. You might not see something that's going on. Mm-hmm. But I truly do believe in signs. So let's get into our conversation, because our guest is going to be coming on in just a few minutes. Is that okay, Mike? If we talk about our topic?
We have a very, very interesting guest tonight. We have
super
Jack
interesting.
Roth, and I'm sure he's going to have some interesting stories for us.
Yeah, he's going to have, and I'm excited for this tonight, and I'm excited about all of our guests, by the way. And I am going to get to the quantum healing, and I've been talking about her, Dr. Michelle Adams, since we had her on, and I'm definitely getting up there. I spoke to her. I sent you the information. Okay, so tonight's subject was I writing Unexplained, or was I writing Unsolved? They're kind of similar. Unsolved, Unexplained Mysteries. What exactly is that? Well, it's about open cases of crime, and it could be in science, pop culture, history. It's an uncertainty, and unanswered questions remain. Now, maybe you've heard of some of this. We're talking about stories. There's so many of them. In 2020, there was what was called the raining birds, and hundreds of birds, 1,000 birds fell from the sky, and they were dead. They fell from the sky and they just were dead. They were migrating, but for some reason they were starved birds. There's the story of the Ark of the Covenant, which I kind of want to get into, and I want to find someone who knows something about that and bring them on as a guest. Anyone out there who knows anything about the Ark of the Covenant? It disappeared. It's a wooden ark containing stone tablets with the 10 Commandments. I'm sure Michael knows something about that. There's the subject of dark matter. What exactly is that? It's invisible to the naked eye. It's unexplainable. I actually tune into dark matter and use that energy to create. What I mean by dark matter, what I mean is the space in between. So I call it the space in between what you can see that's concrete.
The interesting thing before it
Tell
with
me.
in regard to dark matter, there
Yeah.
was a point in time where they didn't believe it existed. And now within the last, I believe it's decade and a half, they've actually been able to register and read, the energetic patterns of dark matter. And there's a lot of theories that, like if we look at quantum physics, we look at string theory, there's a lot of belief that, that's like an interdimensional permeating field that kind of coexists interdimensionally with our dimension here. So, and they're doing a lot of research into that. Some of the stuff I had some discussions around that with some of the work I was doing in Yale when they had me in like sensory deprivation chambers, and we were doing some different psychic exercises. And they had some talk about basically the psychic energy permeating into that quantum realm. And I mean that's for a whole other episode, but yeah, they're doing a lot of studying into the black matter,
Mm-hmm.
and they're able to register and read it now and see, yeah, there is something there where prior, I guess, our current science, it was just a guess, is there something there? But they're actually registering and reading, wavelengths throughout that. So it's cutting edge.
I'm actually writing about ether and Nikola Tesla in my book this past couple of days, which
Mm,
is in the atmosphere and the
yeah.
energy that they used to as an energy source in Tartaria, which is a lost
Mhm.
civilization. And they had these dome metal towers, and
Yeah.
there was ornate architecture within, and they would have that connected to the ether, and a water source was nearby, and earth created free energy. Okay,
Mhm.
moving back to our subject, unsolved mysteries, UFO abductions and alien hybrids, which is going to be part of our discussion tonight with Jack. And I'm going to introduce him because he's in the green room right now. So who is Jack Roth? Well, you can look up his websites, jackrothauthor.com. He also has a website for his documentaries, j3films.com. And let me explain a little bit about him. Jack Roth is a screenwriter, film producer, and nonfiction book author. He's produced the award-winning documentary films, which I saw some of the trailers today, and I'm excited to watch them. There's a trilogy: Extraordinary, The Revelations, Extraordinary, The Seeding, Extraordinary, The Stan Romanek Story. These were all produced and released before 2013. So he's ahead of his time. And he's the author of The Killing Kennedy, Exposing the Plot, the Cover-Up, and the Consequences, Ghost Soldiers of Gettysburg, and The Unknown Down. He's very interested in exploring unsolved mysteries and unexplained phenomenon. Jack's work is driven by a strong desire to seek the truth and share it with others, as this, he believes, it will ultimately lead her to greater enlightenment. I spoke to him today, and he has had his own separate spiritual journey himself. His production company creates engaging, entertaining, and educational documentaries. So let's bring him on and hear exactly what he has to say. Hold on. Hi,
Hey
welcome.
guys,
Hey, Jack, how are you? Pleasure to have you here
good.
on Two Psychics.
Thank you so much to both of you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're pretty interesting.
We're gonna.
I've had a long journey, so I've been on a journey for a while. So yeah, what tends to happen? A lot tends to happen when you go searching for stuff.
Or you connect to it, and then it
Yeah.
finds you. You're manifesting the energy into your life.
Exactly. Right. Yes. Part of the things that I know we had a brief discussion today, kind of like a pre-interview thing, and we talk about synchronicity and
Mhm.
intuition. It's so important to know that that's real,
Yeah.
and it'll guide you the right way.
Absolutely. That's why we're here, and we're on this journey to uncover. Where is our intuitive abilities leading us? And I think when we can kind of go into a deep dive on that journey, the most amazing things will be uncovered, you know, in that path. What I want to touch base with you initially, Jack, is so you have a wide spectrum of things that you're doing, and I'm really intrigued by the film production and the producer. But I'm curious, were you involved doing films and the production end of things first, and then got into the, you know, the unexplained mysteries, the unexplained phenomena, or is that something that intrigued you from early on, and you decided, hey, I need to do a deep dive into this and learn film and production and create something? Like, what was your path and journey? What started first?
That a great question. What came first, the chicken or the egg? And to
Yeah.
be quite frank, the more I experience, the more I'm not sure. I know this. So vocationally, I've always been a writer. I went to journalism school, got my journalism degree, and then I went back and I got my film degree. So I knew what I kind of wanted to do. Felt I was creative. I was always, you know what you're good at, you know what you're not good at. I've always been a good writer. There are a lot of things I'm not good at all, but I am a good writer. So God bless me with that, I guess you can say. But you know, the unexplained has always kind of followed me. So I always remember being a kid, like it's under 10 years old, and looking in the sky and knowing like it would bother me that people didn't think that extraterrestrial life existed. It also bothered me that people didn't think that spirit world existed. Like to me, it was a no-brainer. And I just always knew it to be real and true. And so as again, you grow up, you kind of get indoctrinated a little bit. And then you have to fight through that again, use your critical thinking skills and understand that, you know, there is a lot out there that we just do not know about as far as our current science is concerned, or at least was concerned, leading up to the last 20 years. So, but what happened was I had a life-changing experience in 1995. I remember it specifically because that's when this all started. My friend and I, who's my partner at J3 Films, we had gone to a place called the Myrtles Plantation. I don't know if you're aware of it. It's a plantation in Louisiana, rural Louisiana. And I took some pictures while I was there. And at this time, it wasn't digital; it was film. So I had black and white and color film. It's my film camera, and 2 photos came out of that basically were full form apparitions, and it forced me to pay attention. It changed my paradigm. Not that I didn't believe in it.
And were you trying to rule out, like, is this a double exposure? Or what could have happened with the film and you couldn't rule it out? Or like what kind of unfolded around that?
Yeah, because at the time, and I become a fellowship student at this it's called Crealde School of Art here in Orlando, and so I knew, you know, like I was working with photography all the time, and I was, you know, mixing chemicals and exposing film and making prints, and so I knew, like, okay, this, if it could have been like an orb, could be a dust particle. I get it, especially with digital cameras, you have to be careful with that. But this was like a full, like basically the story of what happened at the Myrtles. That person showed up in my photo.
Oh, wow.
So there was really no guessing to be done. But the long story short of that is it started me on this path. I actually started researching. I met a parapsychologist, this PhD, because I showed him my photos. And this is my initial journey, was on that side, on the paranormal side of things, hauntings. I was fascinated with it. I spent 7 years going to Gettysburg, bringing groups of people there and documenting their experiences. And that's the Ghost Soldiers of Gettysburg book that I wrote. But as this was happening, I also wanted to do documentary film work, and my partner and I had always wanted to do documentaries. And so it was, but again, up until that point, it had always been about paranormal hauntings, and I'd had some incredible experiences. So I was already, based on my personal experiences, I knew that there was something else. I knew that a spirit world existed, and not just with residual hauntings. It was genuine hauntings, genuine spirit existed. So, but again, I always felt my job as a writer was to document, not to try to convince anyone of anything. And I always have told people, you got to go out and experience it for yourself. Because I had people that said, oh, you doctored those photos, and I would never do something like that. And I was so insulted. But then I realized if the roles were reversed, if you didn't take the photo and you weren't there and you know that you didn't do anything to it, you would probably, oh, well, they could have faked it, because you're just not sure. But when it's you, So, and again, I couldn't convince anyone that the photos were real. Most people who saw it were like, wow, okay, that's pretty amazing. Even the parapsychologists I would talk to. So I'm already down this path. And then John and I had gone to Denver to a conference. It was actually a Stephen Greer thing. And the reason I went is I had always been fascinated by UFOs and ETs and the whole 9 yards. And I always felt really drawn to it. And I said, John, let's see if we can find a really good documentary to do. And let's see what we find. So let me go to this conference, see if there's a story that pops up or whatever. So when I went to this, I met some researchers, some PhDs, and some other researchers who were involved in this case. And they told me, listen, if you're going to make a documentary about anything, you got to do this case. It was one man's story. And that became our first documentary, Extraordinary, the Stan Romanek story. And we wound up doing a trilogy. So it's the Extraordinary trilogy. So that's why you see Extraordinary, the Stan Romanek story, Extraordinary, the Seeding, and Extraordinary, the Revelations. And when we finished the first one, I was explaining this to Mary briefly today, just doing the pre-interview, but it's things started happening to us. And we started getting incredibly strange phone calls, trying to figure out, we were calling people from AT&T and Bell Telephone, and just, how could this, it was like being connected to 4 people on landlines, cell lines, instantaneously, where no one called anyone. So we're all, imagine 4 people picking up the phone at the same time and saying hello. It's like, would you call? Did you call? I didn't call you. I didn't call you. And then a voice would come on the phone and start saying stuff. And it was electronic in nature. But, over time we figured out we kind of, the best guess for, and it really was an educated guess because we did a lot of research, was that it was both government and ET. And again, you start experiencing these things. First of all, what happens is on the ET side of it, now you're on their radar, right? So you're definitely on the government radar, and now you're on the ET radar, because and we always felt like we were meant to do this documentary. We were meant to do these documentaries. So what wound up being a trilogy, because we follow one man's story, and then it got broader, talking, because the way the first documentary ended was with this man being contacted 7-8 years later after the abductions by these 7-8-year-old hybrid children, literally calling him on the phone and showing up. There were a couple of photos of them. So, and again, it absolutely baffled PhDs. It's just an amazing amount of evidence in this man's case. Very controversial. There's a lot that went into that. But again, as filmmakers, we just wanted to document and share it, and then let people make up their own mind. But what wound up happening is the distributor was like, wow, this did really well, the first one. Do you have anything else? And I said, well, yeah, it's really a trilogy, because after finishing the first one, we realized that the story is really about these hybrid children, because whatever's happening with abductions leads to these seems to be leading to hybridization projects, some kind of hybridization experiments, projects. And so that's why we did The Seeding, was the second one. And that was about false pregnancies, unexplained pregnancies. It was female based. Most of the people we talked to were female. One was a male. but it was about the fact that they had these abductions, and then they were somehow, some way pregnant, and then after a certain amount of time, overnight, not anymore, where there was no sign of miscarriage, and it's just like gone. And then years later, they're abducted again, and they're meeting their children on craft. And this started happening over and over again. So we documented that. And then the last one, the revelations, really is just about that. Like, we took, what does this all mean? Why? What could it mean? And we took the three prevailing theories, the positive, more light and love, human enlightenment; the negative, which would be basically takeover, which again is negative, but we wanted to at least show that because some people believe that. And the third was a biblical narrative. So we interviewed some people who went not strictly, but they used the Bible as a path of, well, this says it all about the ETs right here. So again, we didn't have any opinions about any of it. We just documented everything. But if you watch all three, you get caught up to speed on what's really going on. And so, but after doing these, as you guys very well know, you change, you grow, you become more in tune to these frequencies. And then you don't even realize how much you've changed as a person, even though you're not necessarily the one having experiences every day. You are having experiences, and you are what I like to call, you're leveling up. And that led to things happening since. And since, like, I wrote another book about the JFK assassination, that was strictly, I always wanted to write a book about the JFK assassination, but other things started happening in my life, synchronicities, where I'm realizing that all of this is tying together, the spiritual, the ET phenomenon, all tying together and all starting to make sense. And it's been, I think it's been I feel like I'm incredibly fortunate and lucky to have experienced the things that I've experienced. I mean, there have been some things that aren't so pleasant, but most, I would say 95% of it has been just enlightening. And I feel like I'm a completely different person today than I was in 1995.
Now, Jack, one thing I find fascinating about this, and I think we're hearing more of it, and you had just mentioned this biblical connection to extraterrestrials, or also this theory that, extraterrestrials could potentially be fallen angels that were among this planet that now are coming back and kind of portraying that extraterrestrial kind of image. Like, what are your thoughts on that? So I guess this is a two-sided question. What are your thoughts on the aspect of fallen angels, or, a demonic energy portraying itself as extraterrestrials, or that connection? And then let's talk a little bit about biblical connections to extraterrestrials. So two-sided question here.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I had never really thought much about fallen angels, so to speak, as what they were exactly. But when you start doing the research and you go back to ancient civilizations and you go back to, ancient aliens, basically, right? Where it's like, okay, people have been talking about this and writing about it and drawing it for a lot longer than we thought.
Yeah.
I don't think biblically. I consider myself at this point an incredibly spiritual person, but I try not to get into the Bible and or the Quran and or the Torah or whatever, because there's so much interpretation that goes into it. But what's compelling about it is, well, all right, could the Draco reptilians be right? Like, I feel like if there's evil, that they say that, we can be manipulated by evil. And this is in the Bible, right? And instead of demons, what if that's the Draco reptilians who are capable of taking you over and changing the way you think, and and literally tempting you, almost like Adam and Eve. Like they tempt you with, if you do this for us, we'll give you fame, fortune, and which has happened. Now we've learned over the years, right? So could that kind of malevolent ET race be fallen angels? But back then, because we thought so, the way people thought 2,000 years ago or so, it was all very biblical. So it was angels and demons, right? Based on the Bible, as opposed to good energy, bad energy, right? As opposed to whether it's benevolent ETs versus malevolent ETs that have always been affecting mankind, have always been manipulating one way or the other. What I mean by that is the bad ETs. So there is something to be said for that. And since in the last 3 years, I've actually had some experience with, I never wanted to believe the Draco reptilians existed. I'm very about love and light. Everything I've always done, when I walk into a haunted place, it's not about demons. To me, it's about who are the people who lived here, loved here, had emotion here, and died here. And can we connect with them? To me, it's all about spirit. It's all about spirit world. It's all about helping people, right? Helping heal. So to me, I always took a very positive attitude. So I never wanted to believe in that. But when you're face to face with the reality of, oh God, they really do exist. And then you're like, okay, well, this explains the yin yang of good, evil in the world. Or you want to talk about Christ energy. We talk about source energy, right? Universal, the fact that we're all connected. I see that as a very positive thing. But if there's a malevolent ET species that are all about all the evil things that we could think about in the way that they manipulate and the horrible things they're all about, well, that's the evil. That's the evil we need to constantly be aware of and fend off. So I hope that answers the question. I'm hoping I answered the question.
Yeah.
There's a lot there.
You have a vast knowledge in many different aspects around this. So I was just curious, and that makes sense. And yeah, and absolutely. And I think that's probably a misconception that a lot of people have had is, everything is love and light. And I think we do have to look at both sides of it to get the true story, and if there is positive, there is negative, exactly what you said, the yin yang effect. And obviously in this world, we can see, light and darkness, and in the spiritual realm, we can also see that, and through ancient texts, obviously it's been documented throughout the ages of human history, but, and I think that's the right approach. And like me as a medium, I want to connect to the higher vibrating energy. I want to connect to that divine energy, but I have to realistically understand that in this world, good and evil both exists. And I would say on the spiritual realm, good and evil also exist. And if we're not looking at the whole full scope of things, I think there could be a lot of negative ramifications around that, so to truly understand what's going on, I do believe, like your aspect, we do have to look at the yin and yang, the light and the dark, and look at all aspects of that. Otherwise, I think we're being ignorant to what else could potentially be around and out there.
Yeah, and you have to be careful. You see so much these days, and I know this is more in the spirit community and the ghost haunting community, where everyone's just going somewhere to do Ouija board and summon demons. Why would you want to do, like, to me, it's exactly. Like, why? No, thanks. And if demons exist, like, I'll respect you. Stay away from me.
Yeah,
like,
you might not necessarily draw that in.
And I'm surrounding myself with love and light. I want nothing to do with that. And truth be told, when you do surround yourself with love and light, and it's all about that, like you say, higher vibrational, positive light, then they really don't stand a chance. But when you go into the gutter with them is when they get you, because they can influence you in negative ways. I say when people you would go into, and it became like this. I think TV had a lot to do with it, with all these shows.
Yeah,
but it was always like sensationalizing everything became a demon. So you go in and it's like, well, no, that's a little girl who lived here in 1830. Why would you call her a demon? Or even like, okay, well, this guy lived here. he was a horrible human being and he killed 3 people and he beat his wife. You're feeling an incredibly negative energy. And he
Yeah.
might have even been influenced by evil forces. But the fact of the matter is you're dealing with someone who was once human, who's just nasty. So you're
Yeah.
picking up on that energy. It's just like you're picking up on the love of the little girl or the mom or whatever. You're also picking up on the negative of this guy was just a nasty SOB, right? So you have to just keep that in mind, you know. And I think people need to be more careful these days, because I think because they watch these shows like, all right, let's go to the worst possible place we can go.
Where's the demon? Let's get it.
And let's go. And it's like, yeah, you don't want that. You don't, don't, what you're asking for, just don't. You know,
it's almost like you're looking for trouble. No, I appreciate your perspective and where you're coming from, because I do think if we're doing this in a very authentic, evidential way, we're going to see that, okay, this isn't a demon. This is, you know, you're picking up on the residual energy, and we have to look at maybe, you know, and maybe a different aspect that could be demonic possession, or there could be demonic energy infiltrating that environment. But I think we have to look at all aspects to do this in an authentic, evidential way. We have to be able to rule everything out and then kind of get to the core of it. And that's what I appreciate, looking through some of your work and doing a little research, you know, into what you're doing. I think you're approaching it that way. And, you know, that's how we want to represent things here on Two Psychics. We want to look at things in an authentic, evidential way, and let's get to the truth. Let's uncover it, and let's really see what's going on, you know. So I really appreciate that in what you're doing.
Well, I appreciate that. And I appreciate you guys, because I'm not what you would call, I know, like we kind of talked about this earlier today on that call, but you know, the idea of being an intuitive, being a psychic medium, being a, you know, whatever word you want to use, right? Because different types of depending on what you're doing. I was never that. Am I very intuitive now? And I have it, and more of it's come out. Absolutely. But I would in the past always go in as the documenter. So I always had the best psychics I could find with me, and I would rely on them to go in, and if they're going to channel or they're going to contact. And I've seen, you know, they get hit sometimes by bad and it's just like, it's a guy for example, in a house that got swindled in a land deal in 1840 in New Orleans, and he didn't want anyone there. And he was so mad about what happened to him that eventually just his heart burst, died of a heart attack. Well, guess what? This intuitive, this medium, this channeler starts channeling that. So she feels like she's having a heart attack. I'm freaking out, because this was one of my first investigations. And I'm like, what do we do? Like, what's happening here? Not knowing that she was actually feeling what he felt back then. Yeah. So I give you guys credit, because you're the front lines of this. Like, you know, there's documenters, and I feel like now I'm a little of both, and whatever's happening to me is happening to me. But with all the work I've done, I've always been the documenter. I've been there to document whatever you guys were feeling and doing, and trying to document that. And also really in an attempt to get corroborative evidence, that if we knew that if we brought 3 different psychics in at different times to a location, and they're all picking up on an 8-year-old boy with suspenders named Bobby who lived here and died of yellow fever. Well, guess what? That we just corroborated that for 3 different psychics that had no clue of each other. So, and then we're getting EVP of a little boy. Like that's for researchers and documenters. That's what they want. I'm at the point now though, where I don't care about evidence anymore, because when it happens to you, so it's happening to me. So I don't need to go to a haunted house and get a picture anymore. I don't. It's absolutely not. I'd rather just be with you guys and listen to what you're picking up on, and just sit there and take it all in. And then maybe I'll feel something, but I don't have to, we need evidence. Let's document this. I really don't even care about that anymore, because I know it's true to such a point. All I want to do is experience it with you guys. So,
and I'm sure there's a point where you first went into it. You went into it being skeptical, and I think that's good. I think we should all go into everything a little skeptical. But then I guess for you, it was confirmed that, wow, there is really something going on. I'm personally seeing it. I don't need to be skeptical anymore. I need to now understand what's happening. Let's deep dive. Is that
Let's deep
kind of what it
dive.
was?
Yeah, let's deep dive. And the response, and also having the responsibility of a documenter, right? We're making documentaries. I'm writing books. It's our duty, I say duty, but it's our job, our responsibility to be as objective as we possibly can in the telling of it, in the documenting of it, because that's the only fair thing to do. And then also make sure that people understand, go have these experiences, go to the Myrtles, go here, go to Gettysburg, go have your own experiences. And then you're going to be, based on your experiences, that's going to become your paradigm. And, you know, and this is for people that aren't necessarily psychics like you guys, but we all have some intuition. But people, when I would take people to Gettysburg, we'd get there. I'd go right to the wheat field or the triangular field. And I'd say, okay, everyone just split up, go to a rock or a piece of grass, sit quietly in your own thoughts. We'll reconvene in a half an hour. And at first people are like, well, what are we doing? And I'm like, that's what you're doing. You're trying to connect to the land. You're trying to connect. That's all you're doing. Don't even try. Just quiet your mind. Just quiet your mind. Meditate. And I can't tell you how successful that was with people. I just started crying. I felt so sad. And I felt like I saw this soldier and people would have these experiences based on just sitting there quietly. So you don't have to set up 8 pieces of equipment, right? We literally used to have a van. My tech guy, the guy that did tech for the longest time was one of my dear friends. And he would, but that was his deal. He was you know how tech people are, they just, that's their thing. So to them, it's, I'm going to set up tech and we're going to get stuff on this tech. And if it's, you know, whatever frequency we're capturing it on, then we'll figure it out later, but we're going to capture stuff. And which is great because you want to corroborate, but there's nothing like seeing someone and all of a sudden they just break down crying. Not that that's necessarily a good thing you want to see, but you know, they're connected. And you know, for that moment, for however long that moment is, they're connected to the spirit world and they're feeling something that happened to someone in 1863. And that to me, I mean, that's the next best thing to a time machine.
I'm curious with Gettysburg, what was one of your most intense or kind of mind-blowing experiences while you were there?
And okay. And again, understand that at this point I was open and there and experiencing some things, but not like now. And I haven't been back and I'm looking forward to going back. But, we were picking up some equipment we had left on the triangular field. So we left it overnight and we wanted to get there very early before any park rangers came, before any people, the tourists started coming in. We wanted to do, it was just like a camera we put under a rock so you could see the entire field as infrared. So we went, it was early. It was like, it was typical. Couldn't have been, the atmosphere couldn't have been better. It was foggy, 6 o'clock in the morning. And you could hear a pin drop and I go to get it. I get the stuff. I'm walking back up the field and all of a sudden I hear whooping and hollering. So I immediately look over to where I'm hearing it. And again, because I'm trying to be objective, I'm like, are those cows? I know that sounds ridiculous now that would be cows, but who knows what cows sound like? I don't know. I'm not a farmer and I've never been in a field at 6 a.m. So I thought, what could that be? And then I'm hearing it and it's men screaming and yelling and whooping and yipping. And it's getting closer and closer and then it stops. So my objectivity kicks in. I get back to the car where my buddy's waiting and I'm like, I think I just heard the rebel yell. And I did some more research on the rebel yell. And there was a reunion 50 years later. And they had actually on videotape of these 90-year-old Confederate soldiers doing the rebel yell. And I'm like, oh my God, that's what I heard.
Oh, wow. That's
so,
great.
and we knew that the Texas and there were other regiments that came up that field on an incline and they were screaming bloody murder, the rebel yell, because it scared the Union. So you take the historical facts and then take what happened to you, and you're like, oh my God. And I felt weird during those couple of seconds. It was almost like the Oz factor, where you're there and you're not there. You're like, everything kind of got very Twilight Zone-y for about 10 seconds.
Okay, I'd like to ask a question because I've been really quiet. Okay, so we're going to circle back, Jack, to something you said to me on the phone today, and you spoke to about it earlier, because I'm so curious. I don't know if anyone else out there is curious. You said initially, when you started doing these documentaries, and this is what happens. It kind of it's a rabbit hole. It unravels. Information comes. It's meant to come out. What were these phone calls about from the ETs? What was said? You said it sounded computerish, and were they giving you information, a direction to go into, something to uncover? Was it they didn't want you to be doing this? What was it?
Yeah, it was encouraging. And so basically it's this electronic voice that actually exists. So, right. Like, so if if you have that technology exists, you can have electronic voices answering phones, leaving messages, blah, 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 etc.
Mm-hmm.
But literally, okay, so I'll explain this one instance. Okay. Stan Romanek lived in Colorado. My partner in this, John Sumple, lived in Seattle at the time. I live in Orlando. And one Saturday morning, my cell phone, my home phone rings. I'm like, we were getting ready. I coached my son in soccer. So we were getting ready to go to a soccer game, and it's just like real life, right? This is why this is so cool, because like normal life, right? So I'm getting ready to coach him, take him to a game. Then, that's what it was. My cell phone called my home phone. I didn't answer it. Then my home phone called my cell phone, and I answered it. And we had already gotten a couple calls, so I kind of knew that, oh, here we go. Something's going to happen. I say hello. At the same time I'm saying hello, Stan is saying hello in Colorado, and John's saying hello in Seattle. John's on a cell phone, Stan's on a landline. Now I'm on and they're like, hello. Hey, what's up? I didn't call. So then what would happen is there'd be static. You'd hear static. And then sometimes you would get disconnected. So then it would happen again, and you pick up again, you're on the line, just sitting there waiting, and then the static. And then all of a sudden you'd hear a female voice and electronic, and it's like, hello, we're sorry about disconnecting you, but it's very difficult to communicate from such long distances. That's literally what she said. Mm-hmm. So of course you're thinking, such long distances. All right. Okay. I'm going to, I got that. I'm going to remember what she said. And then it's like, we want you to know that, like something to the effect of, you're doing a good thing. This story needs to get out there. This story needs to be told. Blah, blah, blah. We're watching you. There are people that don't want the story to be told, but we'll take care of that. We're on top of that, something to that effect. And it would say things like, and how you say. So it would say, it would be talking and then say, and how you say a word. And then she would say the word. Mm-hmm. So it was like, okay, this is the language. There's a language barrier. Mm-hmm. And so, and then eventually it would hang up, and we're like, what in the world was that? So this would happen repeatedly. And then what would happen for Stan is that he would be getting phone calls, and a little girl would answer. And there's a little girl with this very high pitched voice. Hi, Daddy. My name's Keoma, blah, blah, blah. And he'd be recording it. And he'd be like, oh, hi, Keoma, and calling him Daddy. Mm-hmm. And it says, you know, sorry, I hung up on you, disconnected you, but it's really hard to communicate from such long distances, which tells me they're off planet.
Mm-hmm.
They're either on a mothership or behind Jupiter. I don't know, but it makes sense. Like, it's like, oh, and it was a little girl, literally a little girl talking. And she's like, you know, you have a brother, and then name the brother and said, we'd love to see you. We might go to the conference. And then went at the conference, this very strange looking child showed up at the conference, and there's a picture. Someone took a picture of her, and she was there, and then she wasn't. Like, they're there and then they're gone. And this happened in his backyard as well. So we're getting, you know, when you get calls like that, and then of course we're trying to be objective. It's like, okay, it could be the government. And when we talk to the telephone people, they all said the same thing. This technology is highly advanced. For them to call, to have your cell phone call your home phone while you're sitting there, and then to have connect you in the ways they're connecting you like that, it can be done, but it has to be government. They literally said that it's got to be the highest technology. It's got to be the military or something, not knowing that they didn't say it because they thought the military was involved with the ET thing. They just said it because this is the only people that could do it. So the only people that could do something like that were either the military or obviously the ETs easily could do that. And they communicate. And the reason they use that voice, the electronic voice, is because they're literally communicating telepathically. They don't speak English. So they're using that voice to communicate through, and as if almost like it's a universal translator. And that's why they kept saying, oh, how you say, and it would be just like a typical word we would use, but they wouldn't know the word to use. So it was little stuff like that. And it just, that, you know, between that and other strange stuff, right, that you experience and stuff like that, you just know. And you just kind of know, at the very least, it's the government. And why is the government tapping our phones? Because we're doing a documentary on this guy who was abducted. I mean, that says it all right there. Yeah. Right? Why would they tap our phones? Why would they be communicating like this with us unless they had a very big stake in the telling of the story? Yeah. So it was life-changing. It was definitely life-changing.
I asked you that because maybe 3 or 4 years ago, someone told me a similar story, in that it was about a phone call, and it was what you just said about it sounded like a technology voice was calling, and it happened to the person and 30 years prior, when there was a rotary phone, and then told about what was going to happen to this person in their life and what field they were going to go into, and then called back the 30 years later. So I was curious, because I've only heard small amount of conversations or information like what you just said. It's rare. I mean, I don't think everyone's walking around saying that this happens to them. So that's what to me was similar. I also want to ask you about, you spoke about Stephen Greer. What kind of contact did you have with him, or what did you receive, information did you receive from him, and how long ago was that?
So we're going back to 2012, maybe, give or take. And at the time, I just wanted to go to this conference so I could meet people and see if there were any good stories that were floating around that might make for a good documentary. And so I just did the conference, and I did like a sky watch with him and a group of people. That nothing happened to me or anything like that while I was there. It was just being at the conference to be there. And as it turns out, it was synchronistic, because I was meant to meet these researchers who I'm still friends with today. Like, you go through something like that together, and you're bonded for life. And they had been involved in this case for a while, and they literally took me from the conference that night. When the conference ended, it wasn't over. It was just for the night. And we were in Denver, and they're like, there's this all night diner. We're going to bring our computers, and we're going to show you what we're talking about with this case. And we literally were there for 4 hours looking at all this stuff. And when I saw the photograph of the little hybrid girl, that I literally jumped out of my seat and had to walk out of the restaurant, because I knew then and there, not only that it was real, but that my life had just changed forever. And I got on the call with my buddy John. He was in Seattle, and I'm like, we found our story. We need to tell this story. And to me, it was always about the hybrid kids.
Which story is okay? So the first one was the Stan Romanek story, and his story was that he was abducted, and then the second was the seeding about hybrid children, and then the third was Revelations. So what brought you into the hybrid children?
Okay, so one thing kind of led to another. So when we told Stan's story, and we spent weeks with him at his house in Colorado and all this stuff, and went through just literally boxes and boxes of evidence, doctors' reports, all this. We interviewed quantum physicists. I mean, we went all out on doing this the right way, and we wanted to just present his stuff. And so, but what it led to, so it starts as a guy seeing something in the sky, and then he sees it a little closer, and then he sees it in daylight, and then he has a weird dream, and then all of a sudden he's remembering these ETs coming to his door, and there's missing time, and then he knows he's kind of being abducted. All right, so he's having these experiences, and then years later, from the time that it started, it was like, let's say 7 years or 8 years, then he starts getting phone calls from the little girl who's that age saying, I'm your hybrid daughter, and showing up a couple of times. So the people, and more than one person saw her. You're talking about a quantum physicist and 2 other researchers who are as high level as they come, who are like, oh my God, what are we looking at? And they couldn't believe what they were seeing. So I knew that whatever was happening to this guy, that the hybrids were the end game. The hybrids were the reason why he was being abducted. So that's why we're like, we need to make a trilogy. And during the time that we were doing the first one, we had met some women out in Colorado who had these strange experiences. They were at these different events and conferences. They're like, I had a false pregnancy, or I was pregnant and then I wasn't. I have hybrid children. And so we knew that was the path to follow. So let's make it about that. Let's make it about the hybrid kids, and let's make it about these people who are having these experiences and literally have hybrid kids. Why? And then the third one was putting it all together. We spoke to people who were, close to disclosure, talked about disclosure, and talked about the paradigms of, it could be the biblical narrative, it could be the love and light narrative, or it could be the literal, colonization narrative, which is negative. And so we talked to the right people, and so we wanted to throw it all out there to people to say, this is happening, this is what's happening. There's a reason it's happening. It's hybridization programs as a big part of it. But why? Why are these children being created? And how long has it been going on? So trying to give as much information as you can. And what does that mean? In the end, what does that mean to humanity? And I've since found out, well after the documentaries, that the reason for it. And again, based on now me experiencing these things firsthand, and it's I can dig it. Like I'm like, yeah, that makes total sense. And that's a pretty good thing. I could say what that is, but that's just me. Like, again, I'm not saying that I have, well, no, because I don't want to be like, I know this or that, because I don't know anything. I'm basing it on what I've been shown.
Your opinion. It's just your perspective.
Okay, so, yeah. So basically humanity is just a mess. We know this. Right? We have messed up in major ways. I'm not saying the 3 of us have, but I'm saying our leaders have. And it's all become about greed, ego, narcissism. No one cares about the planet. No one could care. People could care less about global warming. We're totally distracted. In order to get to the next step in our evolution, this has to change. We talked about vibration. They know that in a way, this human experiment, if you will, which now becomes spiritual, is failing for whatever reasons. And so I think the plan is that these hybrid children are going to help lead us into our next step in our evolution. And not everyone's going to follow. Not everyone's going to go with this, like go along with it. Right. It's the people who are being leveled up and the people who are becoming more fifth dimensional in their vibration get it. And they understand. And it's not going to be like a colonization. They're not going to rule over us, but because they're human. They're part human, part ET, but they're going to be the ones that lead us out of this mess and chaos and into a much better situation. Because right now, do you see any way with the way our leaders are right now? And I'm talking about the entire world and the things that are going on. Who's stopping global warming anytime soon? Who's going to save the planet? No one. We might want to, but we don't have the power. They have a lot of power, these people. So unfortunately, we're in this situation where I think that that's what's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen. This is just based on the things I've seen and been told. But again, I'm just one person, and I would never tell anyone that you have to listen to me. You got to find out for yourself. So, but that's a logical. It also makes sense to me.
Now, Jack, I'm curious. So we hear a lot of talk about like a new world order starting to form, or shadow governments, ruling, small ruling bodies controlling the world, controlling world governments. Do you feel that is extraterrestrial involvement, or do you feel they're working in conjunction with extraterrestrials, or extraterrestrials are working, in conjunction, trying to straighten that out with humanity? Or like, where do you see the parallels and that interconnectedness around that?
The malevolent ETs, the bad ones, which is basically the Draco reptilians. Not all reptilians are bad, I've learned, but there is a certain sect of them, Dracos, that are nasty as can be. You can call them demons because basically that's what they are, because they're the ones who control. They've infiltrated governments. They've infiltrated powerful people. Do you ever wonder why? Why would anyone, let's just say this older politician, why would anyone deny climate change? They have children, they have grandchildren. Why in the world would they? Doesn't make any sense logically, right? But they're being tempted. They're wealth and power, right? Ego. So human beings have always been tempted by this since the dawn of civilization. So I do think that we're being negatively influenced by these bad, would you call them whatever you want, but they're bad ETs, okay? To really simplify it. But there are also, I feel like this galactic council, if you will, of good ETs that do have our best intentions when it comes to us. They've never interfered, but it's gotten to the point where they need to take care of the draconians, because it's at the point where they literally are going to, like you said, yes, all these governments, the things that people are doing are so evil, right? Well, what are they being influenced by? Is it just really that bad? Greed, ego? What are they doing, right? There's children all over the world starving to death, being killed, being bombed. I mean, it's a horrible world we live in right now. And so I think listen, I know this sounds ridiculous, but you go back to like a Star Wars almost, like, or you go to Star Trek and the way they depicted, you had very benevolent, highly evolved ET species that were never going to do any harm to anyone. But then you also had warlike species that all they wanted to do was colonize and take over. So we have to deal with that yin yang, like you said, Michael. We have to understand that there is that good, but there's also that evil. And we have to fight that every day. And we have to consciously fight that. And I think that's exactly what's going on right now. As human beings, what we can do is continue to evolve, continue to grow, love. I've been told this now, I can't tell you countless times. It's all about love. You wake up every day and be kind and love. And it sounds so simple, right? So you're going to wake up tomorrow, and everything I do tomorrow, I'm going to be kind to people. I'm going to put a smile on their face. If I go to the gas station, if I go to lunch, whatever I do that day, I'm going to spread love and spread kindness. And that's what, as individuals, that's what we can do. And that's because if we can do that, we're showing we're more evolved. And this is what humans are capable of. With the Draco influence, you're seeing what humans are capable of on the bad side. right? The genocides, the mass killings, the horrible, like just horror. Like if you are religious, this is something that Jesus never would have done any of these things, right? Jesus was all about love and light and kindness, right? So you take it biblically and you see the good. You know what that good is, right? That ultimate good is that it's the Christ consciousness, right? So we know what we should be doing to attain that, and we've lost our way because of all these negative influences. Well, we've got to be better. And short of starting a revolution and having an enormous amount of power to do that and money, which I don't, I'm being told just be kind and loving every day when you wake up. And when enough people do that, there will be a paradigm shift. So that's, I'm probably talking way too much, but again, I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a very interesting perspective when we look at it like that and seeing, the potential influence that could be going on and why are things unfolding in the world today like they are. It's definitely something to contemplate, and it would make sense.
I think it comes back to the topic, which is unexplained mysteries. We really don't know anything. We practically know nothing. And it's going to unfold, and we have to, as individuals, do what we can. And like you said, be kind, work towards something that you love. And there is going to be a divide. Some people are going to hit a wall because it is, the world is shifting and it's changing. And there is a lot of light that is coming because darkness is being uncovered. We're finding out more of what's really going on, and more truth comes out, then the more of a break there's going to be, because some people are not going to want things to change out of the systems. And if we move into a direction of more free will, some people are going to feel uncomfortable with that because they like to be controlled. People like to know what they have to do. For people that are creative and they're insightful and they're intuitive, it's going to be a much easier path.
Right. And that's not who humans are. Humans aren't, we're not supposed to be sheeple. We're not supposed to be lemmings. Human beings. And again, I understand I'm not a biblical guy, but when I mention Jesus, I'm mentioning the purest of teachings of that. And in those teachings is God is in all of us. And that there's nothing truer than that. God is in all of us. None of us should be working sloppy jobs, 9 to 5, being miserable and then dying, right? And never being able to pay bills. And you think about the state of the world right now. So when you say you're right, though, because a lot of people are motivated by fear. So when you're motivated by fear, you don't want any change. I'm good. I'm comfortable. But that's not who you really are. And it'll be very uncomfortable for that person to change that dynamic, to change that paradigm. But that's what they should be doing, right? As human beings, that we have this God source in us. We are meant for way more than what we're doing right now on this planet. Way more. So and the part of the problem is people have been indoctrinated. Yeah. And not everyone is a critical thinker. So when I went to Sunday school and I went to catechism and I was like, what? Like immediately, it doesn't make any sense. And I get hit on the hands with a ruler for it. Well, not everyone just thinks like that. So a lot of people just buy into it, done. And that's it. They're indoctrinated either religiously, institutionally. It's all done by the time they're 8, 9, 10 years old. So It's people like us somehow along the way that we didn't get trapped into that being indoctrinated. So, we're doing the best we can. And all you can do, like honestly, I swear you could take the most miserable human being. And I come across this when you talk about, like, you go to people, just the service industry, you go to a Starbucks, go to any coffee shop, and someone's like, really, you could tell they're just not having it. And they're supposed to be, right. They're public. They're dealing with the public.
Customer service at its finest, right?
At its finest. But I always make it, that to me is a challenge. I will make them laugh. Mm-hmm. And I get off on it. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm going to make you laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And I make them laugh. And all you have to do is show that you actually care and say something nice to them.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not, it's that simple. People say something nice to this person. Maybe they haven't heard something nice in 6 months.
Yeah.
One
Listen.
thing that resonates with me, though, I do think people need to take a step back. I think we're so distracted. People don't realize how much they're being manipulated by what they're reading, what they're watching, what's around them, how they're being influenced. You know, so many psyops going on in today's culture that even if it's just from a large corporation trying to get you to buy their product, people don't realize how much manipulation is going on. So I think if, you know, people can be mindful, take a step back and try to utilize critical thinking. If we could start seeing more of that, we'll absolutely see more of a shift. But that's, you know, that's the process right now. I think people like us trying to bring the truth to the surface and trying to make people look at these topics and critically think about them, you know? So I absolutely appreciate what you're doing. And let's try, we've gone down several rabbit holes, but before we, you know, we only have you for a short period of time. We understand that. Let's talk a little bit about future endeavors, future projects, like what's in store for Jack Roth moving forward.
Well, right now we're actually developing. I started writing. Well, again, I've been a writer a long time, but I know the last kind of frontier for me in that was screenwriting. And we had done the documentaries. They went over very well, and they were very well received. And, you know, John and I both, my partner in this is, you know, we're really good storytellers. Again, that's one of the things we're really good at. And again, I can mention the things I'm bad at. I'm not being eager. I know what I'm bad at. So, but I'm good at that. So I had all these ideas, and again, I'll say this: something happened to me 7 years ago, and I briefly mentioned this to Mary. A synchronistic event happened to me, almost going on 8 years this Thanksgiving at LAX, Los Angeles, at the airport. That was one of the most profound things that's ever happened to me, and changed everything for me. And it was almost like something creative exploded in me. And I have been literally doing stuff since. I have not stopped. I wrote the book. I have now written 4 different scripts. They've been vetted. They've been like, I mean, the stuff that's coming out of me. And so I know this is part of my purpose. And so right now we're actually focused on developing the first one into a feature, an independent feature film. So, but each of the stories are not necessarily, like, I would say 2 of them are metaphysical, but they're all about connection, and they're all about human connection and love and friendship, and they're feel good stories. And so I'm very proud of them, obviously. Yeah, we're just right now we're in the process of developing the first one into a feature film, and the goal is to get all of them developed. And we're going to go down this road. We're still going to do documentaries when they present themselves. Right now, my partner John is in Italy, and he's out there basically talking to some Italian officials about a UFO crash that happened there in 1933. And because the implications are that it affected what happened with World War II, and because of the technology that was captured in the craft. So he's looking into that as a viable, like, oh, this could be an amazing story. It involves the Vatican, obviously, Mussolini, the United States, Russia, everyone. So if that's worth telling, we'll tell that as well. But for now, it's this. But I got to be honest with you, with everything that's happening with me personally. I know there's a book in it. I just want to figure out a way to write a book that's compelling, and again, that just throws it all out there. It's like, this is my journey, and just enjoy it, and then go on your own journey. That would be the whole purpose. I want people to go on their own journeys, you know, and that's the key to all of this, because that's where you get enlightenment from. That's where you learn and grow from. So it's a lot of that. So yes, it's continuing. We'll do more documentaries for sure, but we're really focusing on the features now. And again, always the possibility of a book or two, depending on what I can figure out is worth sharing with other people.
Well, if you start brainstorming one that's life after death consciousness, anything like that, I'll be on board.
Oh, it's big time, guys. And listen, I was telling Mary earlier today, there's a reason why we connected. Mary and I were talking about that, and I totally believe in synchronicity. So, it's, yeah, absolutely. I want to learn more about you guys. I mean, I've been talking the whole time, but like, I really want to just talk to you guys. So, and learn more and have some fun. So yeah, that's what it's all about. It's about connection. It is about connection. And we just made a nice one, I think.
Yeah, it's fascinating, Jack. So any of our listeners out there that are interested in Jack Roth, any of his material, any of the documentaries he's produced, any of his work in the paranormal realm, in the extraterrestrial realm, we will have his information in our social media. And Jack, can you share with our listeners the best way they can reach out and follow what you're doing?
Yeah, sure. And again, those sites are really good. At jackrothauthor.com. And it has my books on there. It has links to the documentaries. J3 Films is more about just the docs. And then we also now have, it's Roth, ROTH, Sumple, SUMPLE.com. So www.rothsumple.com. And that's where we're focusing on the screenplays and developing the screenplays. And I will say this real quick, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to do this. So, because we had a distributor and then we had to get another distributor. And so right now, if you want to see these documentaries, I have to write this down because I'm terrible at this, but basically the first Stan Romanek story, Tubi, YouTube movies, Zumo, Roku, and Plex. Extraordinary The Seeding is on Apple TV, Tubi, YouTube movies, and Roku. And then there's a pending launch to our third one, The Revelations, on Tubi, YouTube movies, Zumo, and Roku. Okay. So, yeah. So, and we're having to do that because it's just now they're available again.
Yeah, and anyone out there that's listening too, I know Mary Amy and myself on my Eye of the Spirits Facebook page, Eye of the Spirits with Michael Edley, and Mary Amy's page. I know we shared some of Jack's material. So exactly what he's talking about right now. If you go back earlier in my feed, we've both posted, I think, some YouTube links if someone wants to go on there and check it out. But absolutely. I mean, this has been a fascinating conversation. I feel like we could go for a couple hours.
There's definitely some rabbit holes we can go down. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's been phenomenal speaking with you. I appreciate you sharing your insight and your expertise around all this subject matter. I think our listeners, really can consume this stuff. I think a lot of people want to see it in an authentic, evidential way. And that's why we like presenting certain people that we feel are doing it in an authentic, evidential way, which you are one of, so I commend you for trying to uncover the truth, trying to get to the bottom of it, and what's going on and looking at all aspects of it. But yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Let me just say a few comments because you guys, I don't know if you can see it from where you are. So Susanna and Kevin Haggerty came through a couple of times. So back to the beginning, I think it's so important to trust your intuition because we were talking about that. It's usually spot on. There must be something else out there. So interesting. A lot of positive reinforcement coming from people. Yes, such an interesting conversation. Have so many questions, but have received so many answers. Love this. Mary, great question. Such an amazing conversation. A lot of perspective. We are there working to connect, which was about you talking about the extraterrestrials. That is such a wonderful message. Amen. I have really enjoyed and have learned so much from this episode, and I'm so interested in following and reading all of Jack's books and documentaries. So very positive feedback, and I'm really grateful because I when we spoke earlier, and I'm hearing a lot. It's a lot in a short period of time, but there's definitely some similarities with some experiences we've had, Jack. And to me, I, I I'm I'm really I'm really encouraged that someone is following their path like you are, and you are having so many spiritual experiences. And this is your documentaries is definitely one form of disclosure that's necessary. And I think that's why you receive the encouragement and the phone calls, because when you're on this topic, because my book has partially some of this topic, you kind of say to yourself, is this real? Should I be really doing this? And it's hard to get clarity. And there isn't any evidence, is there really? Because it's so bizarre. So I'm so happy for you that you followed your heart and your dreams. And I can't wait to see this full length feature film. I can't wait to see this, because I think that that would be such a big sell. And that's going to be the Stan Romanek story.
No, actually, the features are just completely different. But each feature, yeah, like the feature, the first one, it's called Etta, and it's based on the life of Etta Place, who is Sundance Kid's girlfriend, but a lot more. And her story's never been told. But I will say this as a little teaser: it's a movie, it's a biopic, it's a Western, but the inspiration from it was completely spiritual. The inspiration, just think Muse, just think that I was inspired somehow by this, and now there's a script, so, and hopefully a movie. So yeah, there's all of this in all of what I do, and just because it's just happening to me. But I would never have been inspired to write Etta if it wasn't for the experiences I had directly associated with some of the people. So yeah, crazy, right? Like, honestly, not crazy, but it's really cool is what it is. I hope I'm not coming across as crazy. But
it's funny. We have a saying here on Psychics. We have the saying of, when your soul is calling you, it's going to keep calling you until you listen and follow that calling.
Oh yeah,
absolutely seems to be what you're doing.
And 7 to 8 years ago now at LAX, the universe was screaming at me, and I knew it. I was intuitive enough to understand that it was not a coincidence, and that it was synchronistic, and that I had to follow it. That's a story for another time. But listen, I just wanted to also thank you guys. So thanks for having me, but also thanks for what you do and for what you're doing, because it's all part of this, and it's awakening, and it's people understanding, and it's people understanding that people have these abilities, and we all have it in us. But some people, they really, they're intuitive, they're mediums, they're psychics, and we have to this is going to be, if we make it to the next step in our evolution, this communication that we're all having with ETs and spirits and whatever else we're doing, that's going to become the norm. It's going to become the norm, because we're going to be higher vibrational, and we're going to, psi abilities, it's in all of us, and it's going to become more and more of who we are.
There'll be a point where people go, wow, they really weren't crazy.
No, right. After all that. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. In the meantime, got to be sure you're not burned at the stake. But yeah, we'll get there.
No, it's good. Hey, it's people like us that are leading the forefront of what's going on. And, hopefully what we speak about and what we bring to the surface will inspire other people to do the same. And, I think that's the first stages of this awakening that's occurring, and we appreciate you. We appreciate you being here as part of Two Psychics. I'm sure a lot of our listeners are going to be following and looking into what you're doing in the future work, because it's fascinating. It's fascinating stuff. And I think I think you're only seeing the tip of the iceberg of what's going to unfold around your work.
I agree.
Yeah, I get that as well. I sense that. So yeah, just keep fighting the good fight, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So
And
again,
make your barista, put a smile on your barista's face tomorrow.
yes.
No matter what it takes.
Hey, if we can all if we can all be that beacon of light in the darkness, the world's going to be a brighter place.
Yeah, for sure.
It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. But everyone out there listening, we appreciate you listening for Two Psychics podcast. And Jack, we really appreciate you again. Jack Roth, author, filmmaker, writer. There's a book in there, and all kinds of other stuff. So we're going to have you back on, that for sure. So I know the wheels are turning already, and Marianne is already planning that next episode. But, we really appreciate you being part of this, man. Thank you so much for being a part of the Two Psychics podcast. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
We'll talk soon.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Be well. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Again, everyone out there listening, that was Jack Roth.
Oh, wow. That was amazing.
Author, film producer, paranormal researcher, extraterrestrial researcher, a man of many talents. It was an interesting, fascinating conversation, and the funny thing is talking about Gettysburg and him bringing up Gettysburg. Literally, I had 3 different people this week talk to me about Gettysburg. I had a paranormal team reach out to me and ask me if I would be willing to do an investigation out there. And just like, so I'm like, all right, that's interesting. And not necessarily an investigation, but go out there and just see what, they want an evidential medium to come out there. I think they want to bring 2 or 3 mediums, like what Jack was saying, actually bring several different people out and see what information can be corroborated on to try to see certain aspects. Is this residual energy? Is there some type of paranormal thing going on here? Like what's happening? So I'm still, I don't know what's going to happen around that. I haven't yayed or nayed it, but it's funny that came up this week. And I had, at the event I was doing last night, one of the ladies that does the event with us, she was talking to me about Gettysburg and how I should go. I was telling her about my journey into Sleepy Hollow and when we were doing, some of our events in New York, and how it kind of led me to Sleepy Hollow and the graveyard. And yeah, Gettysburg came up multiple times. So who knows? Maybe we do a Two Psychics episode from, we bring out Jack or we get Eric. We get Eric to come on board. I'm sure you're really familiar.
I think both of them would get along. They're both very people, very positive people.
Yeah, they would.
Something just dawned on me just now is that whether we realize it or not, we got another comment. Fantastic show, so much positive energy, many smiles on my face tonight. Thank you, Suzanne. Is that we don't realize because we're living it, but I think that we're doing some interesting things right now, both of us in our lives. And I can't even imagine. We've been doing this 2 years in January. And so much has happened in the last 2 years to both of us. I can't even imagine a year from now where we're going to be at. My book will be done. Who knows where you will be, because seem like you're doing a lot of traveling and you're exploring a lot of different new avenues. Yeah. And I mean, I'm hearing about it. Not everybody else necessarily is hearing about it, but I think that we're on to something is my point. We're on to something we're on the precipice of big change, big shift. And it's exciting. And I appreciate everyone who joins us. And I would really love it if some of you would like to come on and get some readings into
So let's preemptively talk for a moment about December 11th. So we have myself, Michael Edley, we have Mary Amy, and we are going to have Jillian Clark on.
Jillian Clark, yes,
and I think what we're going to try to do, I don't know, so when Jillian watches this or she comes across it, she's going to go, oh, that's what we're doing. So I think we're going to try to throw together a night of readings, maybe for the holidays. Jilly can do her thing. You could do your thing. I do my thing. And, I think we can throw together like a night of readings. Maybe we try to give back to our listeners, all of you that have been following along on this journey, jump on. If you're navigating something, you want us to intuitively tap into some energy around you, if I can connect you to a loved one in spirit, help you navigate some type of grief, whatever that may be, just know we're in the process of putting together something special for Thursday, December 11th. It'll be
Right.
us with our good friend Jilly.
And then we're gonna have people. We can either have a group of us all at once, or we can have separate readings, because all I have to do, everyone out there who'd like a reading, is to send you the link and you join us. It's not that difficult.
Yeah. And I think what we can also do is maybe we throw out a Zoom link, and we can do like a large Zoom group where we can get, if we get 1,000 people on, we can have 1,000 people. Obviously, everyone we wouldn't get a reading to, but however many readings between the three of us we can get to, I think we can put some links out there. We can kind of pull everyone together. Let's have a big event. So anyone out there that's listening, mark it on your calendar. We'll be shooting for probably roughly 7:30, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time start. And we're going to be going, maybe we do 2 hours of readings. Maybe we take everyone through a meditation. We connect on an energetic level. We get everybody grounded, get everybody into the zone, and we do a night of readings. And I think it could be a nice thing and kind of a way for us to give back and connect to everyone that's supported us on this journey. I think it'll be a fun night.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
Mark it on your calendar.
And if you're
December
interested,
11th.
you could Facebook Messenger me. You can go to my website, maryamyofficial.com, and you can send me a message that way. You can go to Michael Edley's website, eyeofthespirits.com. So next week we have guest Kelly Wagner, a psychic medium. We were on Kelly's show, which is for Edge Magazine, a couple of months ago, maybe 5 months, 6 months. I've lost track of time. So it's December 4th, next Thursday at 7:30. We'll be live here with Kelly Wagner. And 2 weeks from now, we'll be with Jilly Clark. And I think we might be streaming both of those on YouTube, if we can, Michael, right?
We're going to try. It all depends. It all depends with my haphazard technological skills, and if I can get all corroborated and coordinated. So I'm hoping.
I'm sure we'll figure out. And I'm so grateful right now, Michael, that you came and you've continued with me here on this journey on Two Psychics podcast, and everyone listening out there on Apple and Spotify and iTunes and Facebook and YouTube and Rumble. I thank you so much. Please like our Facebook page, Two Psychics podcast, and you can follow all of our upcoming guests. And if you want to see any of 1 through 75, you can look at on Rumble or YouTube, or you can look at listen on any of those podcast channels. So everyone have a wonderful evening, and we'll be back next week. Before, I guess, are we going to be here before? No, we're not going to be here. I don't think we're going to be here before Thanksgiving. Maybe we'll pop a show in there if Michael has time. I don't know. But otherwise, we'll be skipping, and we'll be 2 weeks away.
We'll have Kelly on, and then we'll have Jilly on, and we'll be going into a little bit of a winter break, to our holiday break, and then coming back with 26 in a bang. It'll be good. But absolutely. So and when Kelly, if she comes across, if you're watching this, we're probably going to be. We did readings on your show, so I think we're gonna invite you to do some readings here with us, maybe. So
yes, definitely.
Yeah, what is that? December 5th, I think. Is that
or December 4th?
December 4th. Okay, so we have Kelly Wagner, and Kelly is also a psychic and a medium, an intuitive and energy worker. So maybe we have some fun with Kelly, and we do some readings on that night, kind of prepping us for the December 11th too with Jilly, but it's going to be fun. We got some really cool
December's a month of readings. December's a month of readings, everyone. So
absolutely,
there we go. That's what we're going to do. That's our focus. That's our focus, Michael. And I will send you a link to the movie, the documentaries from Jack Roth, and I'm going to check those out tonight when we get off. I'm going to watch some of those.
Yeah, and again, a big thank you to our fabulous guest, Jack Roth. It's been
thank you, Jack.
interesting conversation, to say the least. Appreciate it. And we appreciate all of you following Two Psychics podcast. So until the next episode, appreciate
Okay,
you.
everyone, be well, say some prayers, step on earth barefoot, hug a tree, do a visualization, and focus on your breath. Bye.